It finally happened. Last week, NETTSPEND dropped his Early Life Crisis album. And I gotta admit, I was pretty hyped about this release because after listening to his earlier work from 2024, Bad As Fucking Kid, I have to admit that I really like the production on this work. Based on how much I like Bad As Fucking Kid, I had pretty big expectations from this album, and after listening through it a few times to this point, I have to admit that I was a little bit disappointed. What we mostly get on this album is the overly distorted rage sound we can also hear on many other artists right now. And the problem with this is not that the sound is boring or something. It's just that with this project there is nothing new added to the sound, because what we hear on this album was already established by, to mention a few names, I think about Jay Rest in Bass, which was a great album in my opinion, or another example, Psychotic from Osama-san, great replay potential. Nevertheless, I wanted to make a video about making a beat for Early Life Crisis NETTSPEND, and for this reason I prepared something for you. Now we are in Logic. First of all, I set the BPM to 150, which is a tempo I'm really confident in because most of my beats are in this tempo range. The tempo was set and I thought about what really makes the sound on Early Life Crisis that special. And for me it was the chaotic melody, so I wanted to start with that. For this reason I decided to use Alchemy, stock VST from Logic. It's really underrated in my opinion because it has so many different sounds and they are already pretty processed. I laid down this simple pattern. My personal way to go for these kind of melodies is just lay down a chord that sounds nice to your ears, because I always like to think about how the melody will structure throughout the track. I think that it's always a good idea to just make another melody for the B part. So I took the same instrument using Alchemy, and for the B part I decided to not change the MIDI and just change the preset inside of Alchemy from Bell Plug to Bright Round Robin, which gives us a pretty different sound. For you to notice the difference, I will play both melodies after another. So as you can hear, this one is way more subtle than the first one, but that's exactly what I wanted, because in this part I want the drums to come in. That's it for now, and let's get to the next instrument. Again, I got into Alchemy again, then I just clicked through some presets and freestyle on my piano keyboard. This is what I came up with. I think this melody has a pretty nice synergy with the first melody. To enhance the stereo field a little bit, I used a phaser, which also adds up to the image we want to create. I just used the default preset, I didn't tweak any of those knobs. The next melody part was this one. I originally thought about adding a lead. For this reason I got into Alchemy again. I wasn't really happy with the leads Alchemy offered me, so I got to the synth section and clicked through those a little bit to find something I like. And then I stumbled across banding around synth, and this one has a really interesting sound. I know what you're thinking, but please don't close the video. This sound has a really unique character to it because it kind of sounds like a processed vocal. Also reminds me of the sounds whales are making underwater. After bringing it into our context, it really sounds nice. This brings in the uniqueness we want to have for those kind of beats. With our first three melody parts we already covered lots of ground. But for the intro or outro section I always like to add a sub bass, which I synthesized pretty easy using Vital. As you can see, just a basic saw wave, which I brought up to 3 unison voices, and I brought down the unison detune to 15%. Then just some effects like a chorus, distortion and an equalizer, cutting off the high end, which we don't need for a sub bass. I bounced bounced all of those melody and sub-bass elements together into one audio track, which is this one, and put it into the Quick Sampler, which is a Logic stock plugin. Inside of Quick Sampler I used the slice option, set it into beat divisions mode, since it would not be pretty useful to just keep the pitch like it was before. I pitched up the whole sample to +7 semitones. For the beat part, I actually switched the preset inside of Alchemy from Chroma Zone to Gated. Adds this nice rhythm to the melody. Since it would be pretty boring to just play this melody through the whole time, I just added one lead. So now it's time to make some drums. For this early life crisis type beat, I like to go for a heavy 808. This is the first 808 part. For the second drop part, I like to have multiple 808 patterns. One thing I always like to do with my hi-hats, makes the hi-hat move from side to side. We can improve the impact of the 808 by just using a kick. We now just need to arrange the whole beat and then we are finished. And yeah, I think the beat really slaps, just like all the beats on Early Life Crisis. This was my take on making an Early Life Crisis type beat. I hope you enjoyed the video and learned something new. If you did, consider liking and subscribing. Thanks for watching. See you next time.